as they have cocoa, but not chocolate. They have oil, they have gold. That's why it's called the Gold Coast as well. But let's go to the proverb. The path does not close to the person who returns. The path does not close doors to the person who returns. How would you interpret it?
The path does not close
to the person who returns.
To the person
who returns.
Who returns.
Yes.
The path does not close to
the person who returns.
It's an oxymoron in a way,
because
the path does not close to the person who returns.
Yes.
In a way, it's an oxymoron because the path closes ideally to one who returns. But here it says the path doesn't return or does not return to the person.
Does not close.
Does not close to the person
who returns.
So in this case, it is an oxymoron, and I'm sure it may have a deep meaning per the cultures there. I have been to Ghana. The last I was there was a year ago, particularly in Accra. I may not be privy to the specific meaning.
Don't think of it of Ghana and its relation to slave trade.
But I can think of all that history, as you say, on the slave trade. I've been to those changes. I've been to those dungeons of slave trade. So I think a lot of returnees have come back after slave trade, having the ancestors, the offspring of those ancestors of slave trade, came back to Ghana, a few of which I have some exchanges with them in Ghana, in Accra particularly, during my last visit there, and some 1 year back, in last year, 2025. So, and these people came back from the shores of the Atlantic and returned back to the ancestral land and reestablished their lives and livelihoods back in their homeland. So it may speak to that. And I have seen them, met them, had discussions with them, especially those who came back, the offspring that came back from the shores, the offshores in the US.
Yeah, that's well said.
The Americas.
Indeed. Coming back to your roots. And it seems that there seems to be a comeback through it all. So what we're talking about today, thank you for that, DG. What we're talking about today is obviously Wajir County was the object of attention during the Madaraka Day celebrations and the run-up to that, whereby for the first time a national celebration of this kind takes place in Wajir and certain things are done or promised as a result of that. What was your initial feeling about Madaraka Day then being commemorated in Wajir before we get into a lot more of these conversations?
Thanks for that. And I take this opportunity to thank all particularly the people of Wajir County, for coming in their numbers to dispel all the rumors that there are no people there or there are only trees and stones and camels. And equally, if you have seen it, the stadium was full to the brim. Not just full, people had to sit in the pitch. And to come to your question, definitely it felt different. It was the past, it was historic for such an occasion, a national occasion to be held in Wajir County. And it felt different for everybody. It was emotional for not just for the common man, the man in the street in Wajir, but equally for the president himself. He equally said as much that this was the first emotional Madaraka Day for me as a president of Kenya. You could see the governor literally weeping on stage. So it felt different for everybody. It was emotional. It was a moment of inclusion, rather. It was a day to mark a move from the margins to the mainstream, a move from the menu to the fulcrum of national discussion and discourse. So that is how literally everybody felt. You could see from the place of the youngsters, the people is there who drew the map of Kenya as one of the place. It is a mark mark of history, showing it is the day that the people of the North start their journey of inclusion to the rest of the country. So it is felt different from the rest. It is probably one of the National Day events where I listened to a speech meticulously from the beginning to the end, almost 50 minutes, 46 minutes or thereabout. And it spoke everything to do with history. Remember what he started with. This is Wajir. The speech started with saying, this is Wajir, and this is Kenya. That speaks volumes. And that's how he ended as well. This is Wajir, this is Kenya, and Kenya belongs to all of us. So it was a speech to mark inclusion of the North into Kenya.
One thing that one would say as well that brought inclusion that we talk about today is the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that brought devolution, that then took power closer to the people. And with that, then there has been questions of about 4 trillion shillings since devolution was there. And the northern part of the country as well has received its share of revenue that has gone there. There has been conversations that we are not seeing what that money has done in the north. Those who are speaking like that, is it because they don't understand what is happening in the north, or has the north had to work extra hard to catch up with the rest of the country?
For one, most Kenyans know largely their birthplaces, the places of birth.
Yeah.
Let's say their villages, and probably Nairobi. We are devoid largely of moving from one county to another. So most Kenyans may not know of what may be happening in the rest of the country. So that's one. Secondly, we need to appreciate history here. And for anybody to appreciate what's happening in northern Kenya, history is very important here. Remember, we had almost more than a century. I'm talking about 108 years of exclusion for the North. From 1902, during the British rule, when British rule started in Kenya, and to up and about 2010, when the new constitution was promulgated, we had, you can remember, in 1902, we had the district outlying ordinances that literally reduced the North to an enclosed area. You literally had to have a pass to enter and exit the North. We had several rules. We had 1926 rules, the district ordinance rules. We had 1934 rules, which said, an extension of the same. We had special ordinances that literally closed the area. No development, absolutely no development. You get the point?
Yep. And
so development then was restricted to the productive areas, the highlands, what we call the white farmlands, largely in central Kenya and part of Rift Valley. Then that was between 1902 up and until independence time. In 1962, we had a referendum in that part of the country where over 80% of the population then decided to join in the newly formed Somali Republic, but that didn't see through the light of the day, and the North joined Kenya as part of the Republic. But then right after that, there were insurgencies that sprouted out of the disappointment of the people, and what the then government of President Kenyatta labeled as shifter, from the word Swahili. What was the pursuit of people, political pursuit of people, was reduced to mere criminality. That went from 1963 to 1967. And if you might hear in Wajir, or most parts of the North, anybody born between 1963 to 1967 will say he was born during John Karar in Somalia. Karar means literally fleeing. So you're fleeing John. John was the president, Jomo Kenyatta. So anybody born between those years, 63 to 67, will tell you I was born during John Karar. people were displaced into Somalia, Ethiopia, and other borders. Remember, these borders were also a creation of the Wazungu. There were no borders then. The construct called Kenya started in 1963. It was not there before that. So between until 67, when there was MOU signed between Somalia and Kenya in Arusha, what was called the Arusha Declaration. Then a lot of history. In 1970, there was Indemnity Act that was passed. Remember the departure between Kenyatta and the Odingas, the Odinga, Jaramogi Odinga and Jomo Kenyatta political departure started with the session paper 1965 that literally restricted economic development to what was then the White Islands. That was a structured exclusion of the North economically. Then we have 1970, the Indemnity Act, that absolved any blame from the security agencies and public servants from any criminality in terms of maiming, mauling, and murdering of people. All the way this moved, we had many massacres in the north. We have the 1980 massacre of Garissa. We had the 1981 massacre of Malkamari. We had 1984 Wagala massacre. These things continued up until 2010 constitution, promulgation of the new constitution. And the Indemnity Act was only repealed by the new constitution, not by any other act of parliament that was passed. At one time in 2010 it was passed in parliament, but somehow it didn't see the light of the day. But the new constitution carried the day for us. So we have 100 years of exclusion, economic exclusion, and institutionalized and what you call impunity in terms of security. So we have the new devolution from 2010, 2013 rather, to now. That's about probably 13 years.
Yeah.
That does not match 180 years of exclusion in terms of development. And in any case, what we have as resources for devolution, we appreciate devolution. And if we say in the North, any form of devolution, however, with its teething challenges, is better than the previous centralized government. So while we appreciate devolution and all that it's doing, and I may mention a few things here and there, particularly for Wajir County, it doesn't really match all the exclusions, economic exclusions, security and structures, and institutionalized security measures that are put in place to reduce. And everything about northern Kenya was then looked from the prism of security and scarcity. So that does not, match all the exclusion that was over a century old. But you might appreciate what is happening in Wajir County in particular and northern Kenya after devolution. Remember, we had one doctor in Wajir district then, what is today Wajir County, had only one doctor before devolution. You could hardly attract an expert and a specialist in 2013 after the new government was in place. Today we have about 74 doctors. 74 from one. We have 174 health facilities from largely one, or a few others, about 6 of them by then. And we have a lot of water points and water sources, be they ponds or boreholes.
So devolution is working?
Devolution is certainly working.
Okay.
With all its sitting challenges.
Okay.
But it doesn't really replace. Because devolution, the resources meant for devolution is essentially for meeting essential services, health at the lower level, water services, agriculture and livestock, and all this kind of a thing. So it is Wajir in particular and the North in general requires affirmative actions. And I'll ask you to listen to the president's speech. He spoke more into the levels of exclusion that was in place, and why the region needs affirmative actions.
So what kind of affirmative action are we talking about here? Because if we have examples of affirmative action, many would, give an example like the woman rep. The women rep, for example, is a form of affirmative action when you say, if you're not going to elect women so let's create this seat so where you can essentially force them into the position and see the results of that. So from what we understand from what you're saying, that the North, Wajir County, continues to be ostracized, as it were. So if affirmative action is needed, what are some of those ways in which then it would change things?
This is why I'll still ask you, or request you to listen to that speech by the president. He really expounded, he really delved into what actions is needed for this region to feel included, much into, he started with the road networks for the region to ease movement of people, goods and services. We thank him for putting in place measures to ensure that the road from Isiolo all the way to Mandera will be somehow realized in the next few years, patches of which are already ongoing, and we expect the few patches that are remaining between Mundugashi and Abaswein, Samatar, and from Mandera to Ramo to be started soon. So one of which is the road network.
Okay, so roads.
Then secondly is access to major water sources like dams. Not just the boreholes we drill here and there, but major dams for agricultural purposes.
And how can that be done?
We have the National Infrastructure Fund coming up probably in the next 2 to 3 months, and those are some of the things he explained will be used. Those funds will be used to have those mega dams.
And one of them will be in this area.
Dams that are 20 billion shillings, twice what the equitable share of Wajir County. We have one upcoming in North, Wajir North, which is in Buta Dam, which is about 16 or thereabouts, 16, 17 billion shillings. We need such dams, many of which about 50 of them are put in place, plans are in place for the same. We equally need connections to the national grid.
Okay.
To spur modernization, to spur manufacturing to take root in Wajir County in particular, and the North in general. So these are some of the affirmative actions that county governments cannot do. We are talking about projects that are worth billions, tens of billions of shillings that can only be done by the national government, not by county government.
So what I'm hearing you say is that because of the 108 years of exclusion that has been acknowledged by a number of people, that the North, and we'll use Wajir as an example this morning, needs a boost beyond the money that counties get, that Wajir, for example, needs a boost so that we can now start to catch up. So roads there needs to be a deliberate effort to make sure that the road network is up to par, that there needs to be dams, that not just boreholes, but there needs to be a connection to these big water projects so that people can have water for things like agriculture and then use in homes, and then also to be connected to the national grid so that manufacturing can actually start to take place in all of these areas. Did it seem like from the speech, which unfortunately we may not have time to listen to now, but since you were there, did it seem that from the president's speech, these things will be done? Because it's clear, in your mind at least, that there's the realization that if we don't get a head start on some of these things, they will not happen. Now, was it clear in your mind that now moving forward, and finally, since it's been declared publicly, that then we will not have these issues any longer?
Certainly, yes. For one, I will watch it's not common for any president to come to a podium or especially a national event, and to apologize for historical injustices that had happened in one part or another of our country. And I applaud the president for doing that. It's a confirmation that really these injustices did happen, and they happened for more than a century. So I believe strongly so that these mega projects that are needed to spur the economy of the region and to act as signs and symbols of inclusion will happen. Partly, yes, some of them have started. We have the road, as I said, from Isiolo to Mandera, and ongoing, partly. In most of the patches, the president was there to inspect what was happening in Kutulo, which is a border town between Wajir and Mandera, and before he left Wajir, and that's during his 2-day stay tour of Wajir Development Tour. Part of it was to inspect, and then we had a LAPSET project tour that is from Lamu all the way to Moyale, which he did inspect. This was a 500-kilometer project. 240 of them are now being done. Remaining is another 260 kilometers of tarmac. Remember, he changed that during his term. This term,
he changed what?
He changed that plan, the road plan. It was initially supposed to be Maram.
Okay.
500 kilometers of Maram at a very exorbitant prices to bitumen standards.
Okay.
So we appreciate that. That connects Lamu to the rest of the region, all the way to Marsabit and Moyale towards Ethiopia. So he did inspect that road as well. So if that road is done, the Isiolo Mandera road is done, and the hinterland from Wajir, say, to Marsabit, Wajir to Somalia border, we have mega dams also earmarked for River Dawa in Mandera. We have one earmarked for Bute in Wajir. We have quite a number of others, not necessarily mega dams, but medium level dams. So, and then we have part of our asks was taking the national grid from Garissa to all the way to Mandera. If it can't be done, we can also have alternatives like, say, solar generation plants. In Wajir, we have endowed with a lot of solar power, which can easily be used to generate power. And so we have one in Garissa at 52 megawatts that feeds the national grid. A similar one can be done in Mandera, it can be done in Wajir as well. So this will definitely spur the economy. And the president spoke to those projects, and he said we will build the north brick by brick, class by class, day by day, until the region is at par with the north.
DJ, when we talk about the construction, or rather development that needs to get to the north, it is a budgetary matter, right? It has to be included in the budget. And with that, then one asks the question from the point of now the county government working with the members of parliament from the region, because those are the ones who can even bring motions in the floor of the house to ensure that these things do come to the north. So what is the relationship between the members of parliament from the region who play the role of legislation, oversight and representation of the people of the region to bring these matters on the floor of the house? Because the president would come and make these promises, but if it does not appear on the budget, then these things would not get there. So how are you working with members of parliament to ensure that these things do work?
Thanks for that. Let me tell you, a lot of these things depend on the executive goodwill. Political goodwill, rather. You might, shout until cows come home as a representative, but the executive at the top level, which we call the tone at the top, is very necessary. And the executive usually can frustrate anything at the top level because of that political might or the levers of power is with the executive largely. So the relationship between the elected leaders from the region and the president is all-time good, very good for that matter. We had a very we have very rough political relations with the previous regime of Uhuru. But for this one, to appreciate and to give credit to President Ruto, he has really embraced the region. And he said as much during his speech that development should not be pegged on geography, that no Kenyan should be left behind.
But DG, as well, one would argue that development should not be pegged on your relationship with the executive. because development that should come to the north is not a favor. It is not a decision that should be made by the executive. It is the right of the people of Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa. Therefore, with members of parliament who are representatives of the people, and if they do their job, then development should come to the north regardless of whoever is the president, you reckon?
You say, there's a statement he said during his stay in Wajir that the north didn't start during his term. The north was there. And remember, this is a very large space of Kenya. And this right was still there during Uhuru's time, during Kibaki's time, during Moi's time, during Kenyatta the First. This right was still there. So the tone at the top is quite necessary. Goodwill, political goodwill is quite necessary in any development planning. So while rights are there, goodwill and political goodwill and the tone at the top is quite necessary in any leadership, be it a company or government in place. So this is why we say that his tone is different. He embraced the region. He says Kenya should grow at par. And distribution, by the way, it's not just in the north, it is many parts of the country. But the north has specific history because of that exclusion component that has etched for more than a century.
But DG, according to the Constitution, which is what runs everything, including devolution, it shouldn't matter if you're friends with the president or not, because you talked about the relationship with the previous president not being so rosy. So the things that you speak about, development, and conducive environment for things to happen, is a constitutional factor. It shouldn't matter if you're close to the executive, because interestingly enough, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary are arms of government. There's not one that lords itself over the other. So are we not setting a dangerous precedent when we say that because we are now friends with the president, we're likely to see development in our area? What does that do to other parts of the country?
You see, these rights were there during Uhuru's time. And I need to repeat this. The rights were still there during the previous governments, Kibaki, Moi, the Kenyatta one. These rights were still there. And we are in a democracy. The majority carries the day, and the minority have their say. You may have your say, but the majority will carry the day. So if you have a plan, just like the Treasury, they come with blueprints and plans, and these are taken to Parliament. If your voice can't surpass the majority, then you will have your voice will be heard, but the majority will carry the day. This is why goodwill is necessary. This is why the tone at the top is necessary. So this right was still there, okay? But it is the majoritarian system. It is a democratic system we have in Kenya. So that's why that's why we say, in as much as their rights, it also boils down to political goodwill. And I need to repeat this many times, because this right was still there. The Constitution didn't start with Ruto, especially the new one. We had
he didn't like it at all.
Yes. Uhuru's term was there from 2013 all the way to 2022. The rights were still there. Nothing has changed. So what has changed is embracing the north by President Ruto.
All right, so let's take something like the promise to set up a tannery facility in the region that would enable the north to process the hyacinth skins and pretty much the livestock industry in the region. Timelines that have been given by the president on when these will start and conclude, because then again, if you're talking about a development that will get there, this is one that we can just say this is the low-hanging fruits for the region. So with regard to this plant that is to be set up, when will it start? When is it going to be concluded? If the president promised that would get there, do we have timelines in place? Do we have that as well included, say, in the Finance Bill 2026-2027, so that it is etched on a law that will be implemented?
Thanks for reminding me. The president spoke on our economic mainstay, livestock, as well.
Yep.
And he said, just as probably the central Kenya will have tea, coffee, and our economic mainstay is livestock, and needful investments need to be done for livestock. He spoke at length on livestock and everything that needs to be done. To give him credit, when he was there sometimes back, the region requested for operationalization of the Livestock Development and Marketing Board, which he did some months back, and have one of the former ministers from the region as its chairman. And he has spoken deeply into the livestock sector, where he said we need to have cooperatives, just like KTNnews does have. We need to have funds. You have the Livestock Enterprise Fund, which ought to be established to the tune of 5 billion shillings as a start. And he spoke of many other things as regards to livestock, where he says of national fodder reserve needs to be created as well. He said feedlots needs to be established across the county, across the counties of the ASAL areas. And he spoke at length about everything to do with the livestock value chains, tanneries, and as you speak about, and many other things, everything to do with the livestock value chains. That's why these dams will come in handy in terms of not just irrigation, but also for livestock, commercialization of livestock, because we equally need tanneries, we need abattoirs, we need all this water as well to ensure that our economic mainstay is commercialized to the extent necessary. And by the way, without much investment, livestock contributes 12% to our GDP. With needful investment, it can surpass many other sectors. So, and this is why, in his speech, he detailed quite immensely on the sector of livestock and why the livestock requires setting a level of investment. And to his credit, we have the board, livestock marketing and development, livestock development and marketing board, which was operationalized recently, and it required needful seed money. We started with the 5 billion shillings. And he says, yes, livestock needs to be invested in. We need to have the needful value chains from livestock. The CAIPs that are in place, CAIPs are the county agricultural and industrial parks that are in every county now, will come in handy in terms of these value chains. And we have one in Wajir County to the tune of 600, which is built to the tune of 600 million shillings. So all these things are in place and they are coming up.
You give a lot of, credit to the speech made by the president, and I think that's okay. So there's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders from what you're saying now to then deliver based on his goodwill. So that's all a wait and see kind of thing. Like you say, they'll happen. But then there's also this little item of money that goes to the county government every cycle. So what would you say has been achieved on its own recognizance by the county government of Wajir, that you can look and say, even as you wait for these things to be done as a result of the edict by the executive, what are things that have been happening in Wajir? Let's not even go into the 14 years of devolution. Let's talk about this past, since 2022, since you came in. What are some things that you can say, yes, because of this 1, 2, 3, and where funds have been applied, that you can see that development is actually happening? Because devolution is a development agenda across the country.
As I say, devolution is working for the North, particularly if I speak for Wajir. And if I speak to the last 4 years, when you came in, we had prioritized quite a number of sectors, especially the essential services like health and water, and it might interest you that we have the first level 5 hospital in Wajir now. The president did commission that during his stay in Wajir. Just the accident and emergency alone will cost probably over 1 billion shillings to equip, and that is already in place, commissioned by the president. We have several level 4 hospitals, which we did during this term, about 11 of them, in different parts of the county. And this county is a very expansive county. We're talking about 56,000 square kilometers, quite expensive. So the cost of service delivery is quite high. We recruited quite a number of healthcare staff. We are doing some more before we leave office, probably from next financial year. And we had operationalized quite a number of level 2s and 3s across the county. So Wajir has 174 health facilities, probably the third largest in terms of numbers of health facilities across the county, from the periphery to the mainstream. And we have, as I said, at the onset of devolution, we only had one doctor. Today we had 74 doctors, 20 of them specialists. And with this level 5 hospital now, which has 12 ICU beds and 12 HDU beds, quite a number of specialists will have spaces to work, theatres are in place, referrals will now be curtailed unless very necessary from Wajir. Before this, we didn't have ICU beds or ICU theatres. So now, with 12 ICU beds, 12 HDU beds, there will be no need to refer patients from Wajir to, say, Nairobi or other counties. So health is one of the areas where we did quite tremendous work in the last one term. And in terms of water, water sector, it might interest you that today Wajir has over 400 boreholes in various settlements and in Wajir County. 400 boreholes is not mean fit for a county like Wajir County. But because of the number of settlements, we still need more. And most of this came, I think during the last 4 years, we did about 70 plus boreholes since we came into office and this term. But remember, we had very few of them at the onset of devolution. And then we did some pans here and there, quite a number of them. In terms of agriculture, we did quite a number of investment in farms, about 13 of them last year. We are doing some more, about more than 10, about 10 of them this year again. So in terms of the agriculture sector also, we're doing at smaller scale. This is why the counties and national government are different. For national government, projects are massive, they're big, billions. For counties, they're smaller. But it is a baby step. It starts from somewhere to the end. You know, they say every long journey that needs 1,000 steps starts with one. So in agriculture, we are actually doing quite a number of projects in terms of farms, and for livestock, we do quite a number of routine vaccinations are in place. We encourage the locals and farmers and herders to commercialize their livestock, but we need major investments in terms of, we encourage equally what we call the fodder growth in the county, in many parts of the county, what we also call feed lots, to encourage people to commercialize their livestock. This is where the business sector is invited by the county to invest in this sector, which is quite a low-hanging fruit for many of us. Wajir is called the hub of camels, and it's one of the counties with a lot of animals. So as a county, we did much. We have the first level 5 hospital in terms of healthcare, in terms of improvement of infrastructure for the town and municipality. We operationalized the assembly, the county assembly. We are doing a fecal sludge plant to cater for matters, fecal and the sewage issues. We are doing quite a number of other projects. We had a lot of road projects within the municipality to ensure that the land valuation and movements of people within the town and municipality is also in place. So in terms of water, health, municipalities and many other things, we did some quite remarkable jobs. So it may not be enough, but we did quite a number of things. In terms of visibility, Wajir hosted also many conferences and functions. We had the fourth pastoralist leadership summit in Wajir town. We had many other conferences here and there that was held in Wajir. We are doing a number of things, particularly within the mandate of county governments, to ensure that our people get the needful resource, needful services they really need.
Yep. DJ, when you talk about the north and the counties, the first, what one would call PR officers for the county, for the north pretty much are the counties. And where am I going with this? For anyone to want to invest in the counties, a few things must tick the box. You've mentioned about the sewerage system that you guys are putting up. There is need for development in terms of road and infrastructure that is needed in the region. There is need to have enough power for anyone to come set up a business there, and adequate and reliable power in the region. But that notwithstanding as well, there is the question of security that has been associated with the region for a very long time. With the president's presence, many would say that has changed how people viewed the region for a very long time. But what are the plans and the development on matters to do with security in the region that would say, I'm going to come do business here because things are changing? Are we seeing investments in the same as well?
It might interest you that Wajir was, as per government record, the safest county in Kenya in 2025.
Yep.
And so, because of the recorded number of cases reported, and Wajir is one of the safest counties. It is, and it does. This issue of security and insecurity are social constructs. Largely, as I said, the structural bottlenecks that are in place during the colonial era and after the post-independence structures that were put in place. As I mentioned, the Indemnity Act that was in place up until the new constitution was promulgated, and the viewing of the North from lenses of security and scarcity. These were structural bottlenecks that were put in place to ensure that this area was excluded. So security per se is a construct in the minds of the people. So I will invite the media as well to move away from that. Wake up and smell the coffee. It's a new dawn, a new beginning for the area. I know it is quite tricky quite not in place to teach new tricks to all, to teach new tricks, but I will invite you to have this mental shift in place and put your ducks in a row and set yourself for the new dawn.
And that's why DJ started by saying that the first public relations officers for the counties are the county governments and the leadership of the region. With all these social constructs that have been there for a very long time, then what are the leaders from the region, the county governments, doing to change that perception? Because in any business, perception and optics live and exists. And
this
that then would call on the county, the leadership of the region, to sell the counties and the regions differently and show that.
And as I say, that was my beginning statement, matters construct, is media construct need to be dispelled, But one thing is for sure, as I said, these are some of the safest areas in Kenya. As I said, it was the safest yesterday, it was the safest today, and it will be the safest tomorrow. And I credit this to Governor Abdullahi for requesting from the president to have one of the state functions, especially one of the national days, to be held in Wajir County. And equally credit and thank the president for accepting the same. We now have a state lodge in Wajir where any president that comes can spend. And the president spent in Wajir 2 nights in a row before he moved away and just moved to other parts of the country. And these social constructs will be in place for some time because they have been entrenched for more than a century. But I invite the media equally to know that it's not just enough to follow what previous policies that were in place and to follow them, no? And this is why we have and requested the president to come and have the Madaraka Day in Wajir County. That itself, the very holding of the function in Wajir town, dispelled many rumors and discredited many of the arguments that are in place. That the place is insecure. There are no people in Wajir or in the north. You could see the stadium being full to the brim. People had to sit in the pitch, the football pitch, and to a capacity of 10,000 had moved to 30,000 people. So this itself, this is what the leadership is saying. It's a request that came from the governor, Ahmed Abdullahi, Governor of Wajir, to the president, requesting him to hold the function of Madaraka, not just Madaraka, but it was one of the national days, and the president who proposed it should be Madaraka. And that very holding of these functions dispels many rumors. This is one of the things, one of the steps the government, the leadership of the North is doing to dispel all those old narratives that were in place in terms of insecurity. And we are putting in place measures to ensure that these constructs are no more in place, especially if you have the power to improve the 24-hour economy in Wajir County. We have last few days, last few weeks, last few months, in Wajir particularly, and in the run-up to the Madaraka Day, put in place street lights in Wajir town. Every corner of Wajir now is lit at night. This improves 24-hour economy. This improves safety and security of everybody. It might interest you that those who do business in Wajir town at night, the nightlife, are non-locals largely. People from Ukambani, from Meru, many other parts of the country that have their shops open until the wee hours of the morning or until the very next day to ensure that the businesses run for 24 hours. So these are some of the things we are doing. Inviting the national government, holidays and events to be held in our counties. We help the national government structures as well, the police and every other national security infrastructure to have some of these police stations in far-flung corners of the county. It's not within our mandate, but when they request, we help them. We built some police stations here and there in Wajir County, and far-flung corners especially, to not just for security purposes, but also to tame and trade in drugs and many other things that have their passage through part of Wajir and many parts of through Isiolo and all the way to Nairobi. So we help and collaboratively work with the national security agencies and national government offices to make sure that our towns and settlements are all safe. But largely speaking, insecurity in the north is a construct. It's a social construct.
So it doesn't exist, really?
It doesn't exist. Not more than it exists in Nairobi, it exists in Kisumu.
Okay.
How insecure is Nairobi at night relative to, say, Wajir? You could move in Wajir town from one day to the other, Wajir town, midnight, 2 a.m. But could you do the same in Nairobi? So when Wajir is credited for being the safest county, it just doesn't come. It's not me doing it. It's not the county government doing it. It's the national offices that do comparative relations and decide it is this or that depending on the number of cases reported.
Okay.
Yeah. So this construct will be, it's long held. They are not there, but with time, they will fade off.
When do you expect some of these things that you heard, some of the pledges that have been made, some of those came through on Madaraka Day. When do you expect some of these things to be done? Because it seems to be the peg which holds certain things from not happening, according to what you said, especially those three things that you had mentioned: proper water connectivity, road network, as well as a connection to the national grid in terms of manufacturing. So in terms of timelines, because time is of the essence, as they say, so that we can get over this thing where we continue to talk about ostracization, when will these things actually happen? And then we can now move properly.
Some of these things are already in place. They're already ongoing. The road from Isiolo to Bandera there are patches. There are several patches.
Okay, so that didn't need the president to come on Madaraka Day to say we're going to do this. It's already happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But these things, when did they start?
Exactly. And that's when did they start? So when will they finish?
These requests were in place during Uhuru's time, during Kibaki's time, during time immemorial. They're all there. But the fact that they started during his term, we need to give credit where it's due. Governments work in perpetuity, yes, but we credit though that the person who jumpstarts the whole thing, and to his credit, he did. And so that road is ongoing. It's quite crucial. It's a game changer for us. And as per the national grid, some temporary midterm measures are put in place to have, let's say, an 8 megawatt solar plant in Wajir County. The land has been allocated. We have no reason to doubt that the next financial year this will be in place. And then we have the
next financial year for which the budget is going to be read next week?
Yes.
Okay.
And for long-term, national grid, the promise here made is for Mandera, it will come from the neighboring country, Ethiopia. For Wajir, it will come from Garissa. So this is quite crucial. We will follow it up, and we have no reason to doubt President Ruto and his government that this will be happening. Some of these things may not happen in one term because we only have 1 year left for this term to end. But we expect, and hopefully so, when he comes back, we really wish him to come back, that these things will be done. And we are there to enforce them, to follow them, not to enforce them, but to follow them through and to ensure that they go through and sail through.
Okay.
So we will not sit back and just leave it to a promise being made and sit back and watch. No, we are there to follow up.
Okay. We've taken a snapshot into Wajir County this morning, especially post Madaraka Day, and what all of these things mean. It's going to take some time, according to Deputy Governor Ahmed Muhumed, but he's joined us this morning. Thank you for being here to then be able to walk us through that conversation. Asante Sana. More conversations coming your way. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
5 bob